Welcome to the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast. At Private Corporate Counsel, one of the services that we try to provide to the business community is a service of bringing other entrepreneurs on to talk about themselves, their businesses, and the strategies that they've actually used in their businesses to become successful. Today, I have the pleasure of meeting with Michael Singh, the owner of Singh Insurance and Financial Services in Lake County, Florida. Michael Singh is a member of our Private Corporate Counsel program, has been for some time. He has run a successful business in Lake County for a number of years. Michael, it is a pleasure to meet you and to have you come in to visit with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
My pleasure. Michael, one of the things we've discussed while we were going through some of our meetings discussing your life, your business, and the different roles that you have is the life cycles.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about 7 major life cycles. We talked about the personal life cycle, the relationship life cycle, the family life cycle, the professional life cycle, the work life cycle or job life cycle, financial life cycle, and then the business life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found that discussion useful in your life, in your relationships, in your family, and in your business?
Yeah, I found it actually extremely helpful. And looking at it in the way that you've presented it has been meaningful and impactful in my life. And one of the things that I take away from those life cycles are you in prime? And that's something that I take with me on a day-to-day basis. How do I get in prime in each of these life cycles? So for me, it's been extremely impactful.
Yeah, getting to prime is so different for everyone. I know that one of the first questions I get when I introduce people to the 7 major life cycles is, well, how do I know I'm in prime? And what does prime look like? How do I get into prime if I don't know what prime is? In your personal life cycle, I know that we try to develop that into several categories. For example, your physical life cycle, your mental life cycle, emotional, and your spiritual life cycle. What does prime in your physical life cycle look like to you?
I would say being consistent and disciplined, doing, depending on what your goal is, being able to do it on a consistent basis. I would feel like that would be prime in that area.
Yeah. And so as you move from one category to the next, do you spend time, set aside some time on a regular basis to actually think about your life cycle and what is it going to take for me to get to prime in each of these categories?
I do. One of the things that we speak about frequently is, focusing on one thing at a time. So it's kind of like one of those things where, I've done it with you where I've assessed in those areas, where am I? Am I a 1 or am I a 10? But in those, what was the question one more time?
Yeah. So, do you set aside time in a given day where you say, I'm going to sit down and consciously think about where I am in my life cycles and consciously make a decision to move forward and try to increase my ability to move closer to prime?
I do. So the 2 areas that speak to me the most are the fitness life cycle and then, of course, the business life cycle. And I do currently, I do take quite a bit of time thinking about it and working towards getting that into prime.
I know when we first met, you had a history of working in the martial arts and being athletic, and that you wanted to get back into that.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of changes did you make in your life to actually get back into a routine? Because I noticed that you actually lost some weight and you're getting some muscle tone.
I did, yeah.
From when we first started talking. And I think you attributed that to your conscious focus on getting back into sports and physical activity. Can you walk us through that process for me?
Yeah, it actually started with talking to you about it. And you had mentioned signing up for a class. I think you had mentioned to me that you do Pilates, every morning at a certain time.
I did it this morning.
So, so what I did specifically was I started boxing. And so, 7:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they have a 9:00 on Saturday, keeps me, I have to go to this class. And so it started there. But first, before all of that started, I had to get my mindset right. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And it first starts with getting into a regular schedule. But on top of that, focusing on going to the gym and also cleaning up the diet. One of the things that you had shared kind of off topic a little bit was the atomic habits, how to get 1% better each day. And so that helped me quite a bit in this process, even with the life cycle process, trying to improve day by day just by that 1%. So it's a combination of all of those things. You talking to me, and then also getting into Prime, bringing that into focus, and then working on getting 1% better, which has changed my life.
And so this boxing class, going to the gym, changing your diet, did that translate into an increase in energy, an increase in focus?
100%.
And how did that relate to your business?
Much more clarity. I'm jumping out of bed now. Before I would hit the snooze button another 15, 20 minutes. But if I have to be somewhere, I'm just more energy, excited to start the day, and overall just better, mentally just better.
Yeah. Do you find that actually changing your life in that way by moving your personal life cycle and your physical life cycle, particularly from where it was into closer to Prime or into Prime, do you find that you're actually able to do your jobs, your functional jobs, your emotional jobs, and your social jobs? And those jobs become easier. You have your better tool being your body and your mind and your soul to actually tackle those jobs every day.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen us even in the past. It's been relatively new for me. I would say within the last 90 days. But even in that short period of time, for me, I'm calling it a short period of time, I've seen a drastic improvement in those areas.
Yeah. And what about every business, every entrepreneur faces pain.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the pain is necessary because the pain moves you forward. And some of the pain is just unnecessary and it seems like it's just in the way. So when you work on your personal life cycle, your physical life cycle, does that help relieve some of the emotional pain that you may have been experiencing running the business?
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, I haven't thought about it that way until you've just asked that question, but it does. And one of the things also to take it a step further is that, as you're working out, you're talking reducing pain in that moment. Sometimes you want to give up, sometimes you want to quit, but it's like, I have to push past this. And mentally, I also bring that into the business world. It's like, stuff will get hard, but, it ends up always being okay. That workout will stop and you'll feel better in that moment. But I also, from a mindset perspective, for me, it has helped me push through things, even in the business world.
Yeah. And of course, when you are able to do your job better and you're able to tackle some of these pain points, then you start to realize some of the gains, not only from your physical body point of view, but from your business point of view, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of gains have you experienced in your business as a result?
Just what I mentioned previously about just working harder, for example, pushing through certain, kind of having the same, as I'm working out, as it's painful, and I'm pushing through that workout, I'm using that also in the business world. Like if something becomes painful, I'm always finding ways of, hey, I'm going to push this through. So it's helped me in that regard.
So when your workers, your employees see you pushing through this and giving 110% and have all that vitality and energy throughout the day, how does that affect them?
I think they feed off the energy. I'm noticing a significant increase in their energy levels as well, and just trying to push them also to be better. But I think it affects, or I know it affects them as well, just being close to that energy.
In a positive way.
In a positive way.
Yeah. And overall, obviously, if everyone grows together, the organization grows as well, right?
That's correct.
And have you seen that translate into just dollars and cents where you see productivity increasing?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we looked at every month we have what's called an agency pulse that gives us an idea of what we did for that month. We're in the beginning of August now, but our last month in July has been one of the biggest months for us ever since we've opened the business.
Yeah.
And so it's quite an impact.
Yeah. Now I know that you're engaged.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going?
Yeah, that's going pretty good. We're talking about getting married soon. We're actually going through some estate planning now with the office. And so, us taking that step also further solidifies our relationship, but it's going great.
So if you don't bring your A game, if you don't try to get in your prime in your personal life cycle, how does it affect your relationship? I mean, does it affect your relationship in a positive way when you work on these things, as opposed to when you didn't work on them?
Yeah, it's been in that regard too. It's been a meaningful impact in a positive way.
Yeah.
It's helped the relationship out quite a bit.
Yeah, someone told me a long time ago that happy wife, happy life. I know you're not married yet, but you're engaged, and eventually you'll be married. But then someone else says, I don't think that's the best. I don't think that's the best philosophy. The best philosophy should be happy spouse, happy house.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always wondered about that. How does an entrepreneur who's started to not only work on the business and focus on the business, but focus on himself or herself, how does he or she take those principles from his experience or her experience and bring that to the relationship? Have you attempted to bring some of these lessons to the relationship, to not only encourage yourself to get into prime, but to encourage your fiance to work towards getting into prime and using them to the benefit of your relationship?
100%. So as of recent, one of the tools that we talked about in our classes are the 360 analyzer, using that in the relationship. And that's been impactful for us. And also I'll reference the 1% Better Atomic Habits, because just as of yesterday, I was talking to her about that. How can you increase, your day-to-day activities by 1%? So yes, I do.
Yeah. And so the principles really cut across all of the life cycles, not only in your personal life, but your relationship. What about your family members? I know you don't have any children yet, but you certainly have parents and you have siblings and nieces and nephews. How has that impacted your relationship with those family members?
Yeah, so what I try to do now is just try to implement certain subtle changes for them. Just try to bring some ideas that I learned in our trainings. But I've seen a positive impact there as well.
Yeah, and so that's a little bit more difficult because sometimes with close relationships like family members, it's difficult to know how much you can actually share and what you want to share and how you can influence them. How do you balance the relationships and alienating the relationships, or maybe putting a strain on the relationships, with what you think will be helpful for the relationships and for them in particular to move forward?
Can you ask the question a different way?
Yeah, I think I can. So, when we're talking about family members who've known you from birth to now, we develop a relationship that is based on everything from then to now. And a lot of times people react or act or communicate with you based on that. When you're introducing a new topic, a new way of thinking, it's rejected oftentimes, whether you like it or not, whether it's good for them or not. And so that's usually the biggest hurdle. Have you seen that hurdle? And if you have, what strategies have you used to try to overcome that hurdle?
Yeah, I definitely have seen the hurdle. It's just about kind of picking apart the pieces for me and kind of really, and I also feel like it's on an individual basis, kind of who it is that you're talking to. But it is a hurdle. But it's just the strategy that I use is just being a little bit more deliberate right now with the time that we spoke about. I think that helps with this whole life cycle, because spending time in certain areas deliberately, I think for me has helped that a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, these first three life cycles, the personal life cycle, the relationship, and the family life cycles, I mean, they're so critical. Without those three being in prime or working towards prime, it's really difficult to get the other four moving in the right direction. And so, it's great to see you develop and grow through those phases and share that with other people. But when you turn to your professional life cycle, your profession as being an insurance a broker, someone who actually sells insurance policies and helps people with financial services. Obviously you spend a lot of time
hmm
acquiring the knowledge and the skills and the experience in this field and the relationships that you need. So, other than the knowledge and the skills and the experience and the relationships, what other factors have you thought about working on or consciously worked on to get you in prime?
It's an interesting question. What I feel that now, again, the first thing that comes to my mind is this 360 analyzer when you ask me that question, because it's working on the different pieces and taking apart a system or something that we're doing and analyze it and trying to figure out how we can get that just a little bit better. So I think for me that's how I go about doing it currently today.
Just for clarity, the 360 analyzer is you take a subject, you take an object, you take a topic, and you break that topic or subject or object into as many elements as possible, and then you grade each of those in a scale of 1 to 10. And if it's under 8, then you need to work on it. Then you take that particular part of it, you break it apart and see what really needs to be analyzed. Almost as if you remember that first Iron Man movie, where he was developing the suit and he was creating the power source for the suit. He tossed it up in the air, the invisible screen, and he was moving the parts around. And then he finally got to the core of the power source. Then he pulled it apart and he made a few tweaks, put it back all together, and it worked. And that became the power source for the suit. So that 360 analysis that you're talking about is critical because it gives you the ability to get clarity on the issue that's important, correct?
Yes.
So how else have you used that 360 analysis in your professional development, in your professional life cycle?
I use it for training others. I did a 360 analyzer with one of my coworkers that work with me, just to kind of figure out kind of where they are in the insurance business and saying, hey, this is where you are. How do you feel that you do in these certain areas? And then we're able to identify the areas which needed working on and trying to improve on those areas now. And
so you're working on your professional life cycle using the 360 analyzer, and then you're helping your workers understand that tool and helping them get to prime in their job or work by using that tool.
Yes.
How has it been received by your workers?
Really good, actually. They really enjoy it. It puts a lot of things into perspective for them. I've had really good positive feedback from it.
Yeah. And so when you look at your job or work life cycle, of course, when you get into prime in one job and you are at that point where you're extremely proficient, then you get another job where you're working towards prime. Of course, that helps you with your professional life cycle as well.
Yes.
And so is that a deliberate thing that you do in your business to help your workers move from where they are into prime in all of these life cycles, including their job life cycle?
Where I'm at today, I feel like I can do a better job of it, but it's something that I need to work on with them. I've introduced some of the concepts of the life cycles with the team, but I think it'll be a positive impact on them if I just kind of do it more of a strategized way.
Yeah. And of course, all of those things affect your financial life cycle as well. And getting into prime in your financial life cycle. You deal with financial services. What's your definition of prime in the financial life cycle?
So my definition of prime in the financial life cycle is the first thing that comes to mind is having money work for you. Instead of working for money.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind in what you just asked me.
So I've always heard that a good strategy would have 3 buckets. One bucket is your monthly expenses bucket, one's your fund bucket, and the other bucket is your savings bucket. And some financial experts that I've talked to in the past have said, as long as your savings bucket is producing enough passive income to cover your monthly expenses in your fund bucket and reinvest some into the savings bucket, that's a good definition of prime for most people. Does that sound consistent with what your philosophy is?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about 6 life cycles, the personal life cycle, and you talked a little bit about the physical life cycle within that, the relationship life cycle and your relationship with your fiance, and the family life cycle. And for you, not children, but brothers and sisters and parents, the professional life cycle and how you've moved nicely from where you are to where you want to be, the work and job life cycle, and how you not only use that for yourself, but for the workers that you have to help them along those lines, to get them in prime, and the financial life cycle. Of course, all of these things relate to the business life cycle, don't they?
Yes.
And so working on those, how has that impacted your business?
It has a meaningful impact on the business. As we're talking about it now, I haven't consciously thought about it in this way before, but it has helped me out tremendously. As I mentioned, in the last 90 days, we've seen a significant increase, and it's me putting together all of the pieces that you've taught me along. I've been in your coaching program, I would say, for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now, and I don't think I would have been in the same level of thinking where I'm at today had I not gone through the program and consciously thinking about these life cycles. So for me personally, it's impacted my business quite a bit.
Well, fantastic.
In a positive way.
Yeah, I've seen you grow. I've seen you grow and develop. I've seen the physical transformation in you physically. I've seen the emotional transformation. I've seen the mental transformation. I've seen the spiritual transformation, and I've looked at you over a period of time and see the progress that you've made. And like every other entrepreneur, you've been frustrated at times. In Atomic Habits, he talks about this valley of disappointment. We always think that the progress we're going to make is linear, and we're going to go from A to B to C to D, E and F, and in that row, in that order, and make progress. But the fact of the matter is, as you make progress, it's incremental, and the progress compounds to some extent. And then at some point it accelerates, just like your financial investments. It compounds, and after a while it accelerates, and before you know it, your money is working for you. So how did you deal with that valley of disappointment? What are some tools that you have to deal with that valley of disappointment? So
the valley of disappointment it's one of those things. When you're in the valley of disappointment, you don't quite know that you're there immediately unless you kind of bring that into focus. But I think for me, understanding where you are and just keep working on getting better, that 1% is how I'm dealing with it, knowing that there's going to be an area where it's unknown. It's a place where you're not sure what you're doing is the right thing. So for us dealing with it, looking at the numbers, as I mentioned, even our numbers from last month has been one of the biggest months that we've had, even though, according to definition, I'm in that valley of disappointment. So at some point, I know, just looking at the numbers and understanding where I'm at, bringing clarity to where I'm at, I will get to, where I'm trying to go.
And one of the things that I remember talking to you about is just a recognition of the progress that you've made, from where you were to where you are right now. When you take the time to sit down and actually look back to where you were and the things that you've accomplished along the way and the progress you've made, how does that change your perspective when you're in this valley of disappointment?
It changes it quite a bit, actually, because sometimes you don't feel that you're making progress. But if you take a look at where you were when you started, for me, I've opened up my business in 2019, and then talking to you about it, because I said to you one day, "Hey T, I don't think I'm making this great progress." But you're like, Mike, look at where you are. Did you have employees this time? A couple of years back. Did you have this in place a couple of years back? So I think it's really important.
Yeah. Gives you perspective.
And clarity.
Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. This idea of the 7 major life cycles is such an important idea for entrepreneurs to really focus on. What I have found in my years of working with businesses is that the entrepreneurs, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, they tend to focus just on the business, and they think, if I can get the business just right, and if it makes enough money, and if it does this, and if it does that, everything will fall into place. I will start going to the gym. I'll work out. I'll have more time. I'll eat healthier. I'm going to have a better relationship. My family's going to be happier. I'm going to be able to learn more and be a better professional. I'm going to get my jobs done better. And my financial life cycle is going to be in prime. But in fact, the exact opposite is true. When you work on all these other things, they actually have a positive impact on the business. And I have found that when people just focus on the business, nothing really gets into prime. And so it's good to see that you've been making progress. It was nice to witness that some of that progress along the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to working with you some more. Thank you for spending time with us today on the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks again for visiting us on the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast. Please feel free to check out our upcoming episodes, where we'll have Ray Watson, who leads the CEO roundtables throughout Central Florida, and Clay Patterson. Clay Patterson is a lawyer, but he runs a marketing business. He also has an ownership interest in a law firm, but he's not an actively practicing lawyer. So those will be interesting business owners and business leaders to chat with. I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Please continue to listen to our podcast to learn more. Contact us at 877-647-7887 or email us at info@pcc.law to learn more about the Private Corporate Counsel program and how we can help you and your business on your journey to success.